3 soldiers, same battlefield, same rain, same order. Kill or be killed. One carries an M1 Garand. One is crouched behind an MG-42. One has already watched half his unit die this morning. Only one of them walks off this field. Who was the deadliest soldier of World War II? Most people answer this question with their gut, with a flag, with a movie, with a myth. We're not doing that today. We are going to use real combat data, real casualty breakdowns from declassified Soviet military archives, real post-war battlefield analysis, including the work of Colonel Trevor Dupuy, who spent 2 decades building a mathematical model to measure which soldiers killed more efficiently. His findings were controversial. The Soviet archive numbers were explosive. And the conclusion this data forces? It is not what any flag would want you to believe. Here is the problem with this question. There is not one way to be deadliest. There are 3. Category 1, tactical kill efficiency. Who killed the most enemies per soldier in direct combat? Category 2, total enemies destroyed. Who was responsible for the most German deaths across the entire war? Category 3, survival odds. Whose soldier was most likely to still be alive when it ended? 3 categories, 3 different winners. None of them share the same name. We are going to fill this board in, 1 soldier at a time. And by the end, you will have an answer no history class ever gave you. Let's start with the soldier post-war military analysts rated as the most tactically lethal infantryman of the entire war, the German Lanzer. And to understand why, you need to understand one weapon, the MG-42, nicknamed Hitler's buzzsaw by Allied soldiers. Not as a compliment. Its cyclic rate reached up to 1,200 rounds per minute, faster than any Allied equivalent, though sustained fire in combat was far lower due to barrel changes and ammo supply. The point wasn't sustained fire, the point was the first 5 seconds. In the first 5 seconds of contact, the MG-42 could erase a squad before they had time to find cover. Every other man in the German squad existed for one purpose: keep that gun fed and alive. Even when half the squad was dead, the gun kept firing. In Italy, in Normandy, across the hedgerows of Northwest Europe. Post-war campaign analyses showed German units regularly outperforming Allied units of equal or greater size in direct engagements. Colonel Dupuy's battlefield model, which adjusted for terrain, surprise, and force size, calculated a German combat effectiveness rating roughly 1.2 to 1.5 times higher than Western Allied counterparts in these campaigns. 3 reasons explain this gap. By 1942, frontline German veterans had already survived 3 years of modern warfare. Poland, France, North Africa, Russia. They had built instincts that no training program could replicate. Off-trags tactic, mission command. German military doctrine pushed decision-making down to the lowest possible level. A 22-year-old German corporal could attack, adapt, or retreat on his own judgment, without waiting for orders. American squad leaders often waited for radio confirmation. In combat, those seconds decided who lived. By 1944, the men still breathing in German frontline units were the hardest soldiers on earth. The process of staying alive for 5 years of war had already killed everyone who wasn't. But there is a brutal irony in being the world's deadliest individual fighter. You can win every small battle and still lose the war, because Germany kept running out of men, running out of fuel, running out of time. Being the best killer on the field means nothing when your enemy can replace every man you kill, twice. Now we move east, and everything changes. The Soviet Union suffered military losses on a scale no nation in all of recorded history has ever matched. Based on declassified Soviet archives analyzed by military historian Grigoriy Krivosheev, total irrecoverable Soviet military losses, including dead POWs and permanently disabled, exceeded 14 million. For most of the war, the world looked at these numbers and drew one conclusion: cannon fodder, poorly led, thrown into battle in human waves, a regime that valued territory more than the men dying for it. That story is only half true, because here is what the raw data actually shows. Based on Krivosheev's analysis of Soviet military archives, cross-referenced with German casualty records, Soviet forces and Axis forces on the Eastern Front killed each other at roughly a 1-to-1 ratio in battlefield fatalities. The most tactically sophisticated army in history was being matched, kill for kill, by the army the world had written off. How? 3 answers. Adaptation. After the catastrophic defeats of 1941, Soviet commanders rebuilt their entire doctrine. By 1943, the Red Army had mastered combined arms, infantry, armor, and artillery working as one system, faster than almost any military in history had ever adapted. Concentration of fire. Soviet artillery doctrine by 1943 called for densities that German veterans said turned whole positions into silence. Before Soviet infantry advanced, the ground simply ceased to exist. Motivation no training can manufacture. The average Soviet frontline soldier was not fighting for Stalin. He was fighting because German forces had burned his village, killed his family, and occupied his home. But the system he fought inside was merciless. Order number 227, not one step back, meant soldiers who retreated without orders could be shot by their own side. Blocking detachments stood behind Soviet lines, with orders to shoot anyone who ran. He killed as many Germans as they killed him, while being given worse odds, worse equipment in the early years, and a regime that placed almost no value on his individual life. Now let's talk about the soldier whose country entered the war 2 years late and still ended up on the winning side of every major front it touched. The American GI early in the war. Not glamorous. Green troops, limited experience, and real problems translating training into combat performance. The U.S. Army knew it, and they fixed it, faster than any military institution in history. Weapon first, the M1 Garand was the only standard-issue semi-automatic rifle carried by any major army's infantry in the entire war. While a German soldier manually worked a bolt between every shot, an American GY could fire 8 aimed rounds in the same time. General George Patton, not a man who gave compliments cheaply, called it the greatest battle implement ever devised, artillery second. German veterans who survived the war were consistent about one thing. They were not afraid of the American infantrymen. They were afraid of American artillery. No army in the war matched the volume, accuracy, or coordination of U.S. artillery in close air support. When American infantry advanced, it was rarely alone. It moved behind a wall of steel that German positions simply could not survive. The system third, and this is the decisive factor. The United States was the only major power fighting a 2-ocean war simultaneously, Pacific and Europe, without running out of anything. Ammunition, food, replacement troops, medical supplies. American units could be rotated off the line, rested, retrained, and returned. German units fought until they were destroyed, then threw exhausted replacements into the same broken formation. Soviet units endured the same. The American soldier was the hardest man on the battlefield to kill permanently, not because of individual toughness, but because the machine behind him refused to let him stay down. 3 soldiers, 3 wars inside the same war, 3 categories, 3 different champions. But you came here for an answer, so here it is, clearly and without apology. Tactically, the German soldier was the deadliest, the most lethal individual fighter, man for man, that any nation fielded. He just ran out of country to fight for. Strategically, the Soviet soldier did the most killing. His army destroyed the bulk of German military power. He paid for it with a cost no Western nation would have accepted. Efficiently, the American soldier built the deadliest system, not the most dangerous in a single duel, but the hardest to defeat in a war, and the most likely to come home. If you were forced to name one winner, the American soldier won the war. The Soviet soldier broke the enemy that made victory possible. The German soldier proved that individual excellence means nothing without a sustainable cause. 3 answers, all of them true, none of them comfortable. Before you answer the comment I'm about to ask, remember this. Every name on one of these crosses was between 18 and 22 years old. He didn't choose his army. He didn't choose his government. He didn't choose the ideology he was sent to die for. He just showed up. The German soldier was called the most lethal. The Soviet soldier absorbed the most sacrifice. The American soldier had the best chance of surviving, but every one of them had a mother who was still waiting. Now, your answer. If you were transported to June 1944, no choice, no way out, which helmet do you put on? American GI, German Lancer, Soviet Frontovik? Drop it in the comments and defend it. Because in this comment section, history doesn't get to stay comfortable. And if you want to understand something darker, why did German soldiers who fought Soviet troops to the absolute death walk out with their hands up the moment Americans arrived? That psychology, that story, is in the next video. And I promise you, it goes deeper than you think. Subscribe, hit the bell, because this channel is where history stops being a textbook and becomes the truth that nobody wanted to say out loud.